Now, striking images. Police respond quickly and put an end to terror inside a bakery. Don't take your eyes off the screen. What you're about to see is the exact moment an armed man storms into a bakery and announces a robbery. Wearing a closed helmet and holding a gun, he enters determined to spread fear. An important detail: no one walks into a shop wearing a helmet without raising suspicion. This is a clear tactic to make identification more difficult. Inside the bakery, the scene is filled with panic. A staff member who was restocking drinks in the freezer realizes the danger and runs terrified to the back, behind the counter. The only customer present, wearing a white shirt, remains seated, frozen in shock. The robber approaches and takes the victim's cell phone. But what he didn't know is that outside, the police were already in position. Notice in the footage, just seconds before the intervention, a bright light appears at the bottom corner of the screen. It's the headlights of the officers' motorcycles arriving. With weapons drawn, the officers rush into the shop and corner the suspect. In the middle of the action, a shot is fired. The bullet strikes the robber, who falls to the ground, wounded. The officer quickly approaches, removes the weapon from the scene, and calls for backup. A swift, precise action, leaving no chance for escape. Result: the business secured, victims protected, and a suspect taken down. The bakery resumes its routine, but the memory of this incident once again highlights the importance of a fast police response. One less criminal on the streets, and a sense of relief for those who witness moments of true terror.
Pay close attention to these images. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, a seemingly quiet residential street located near a busy avenue. Everything looks normal, but within moments, the routine is about to be broken. On the right side of the screen, a woman pushes her motorcycle onto the sidewalk. In the background, a red motorcycle appears with two men on board. They ride slowly, watching. Nothing suspicious at first glance. The pair continues to the corner, turns onto the main street, and disappears from the cameras. Meanwhile, the woman, unaware of the danger, places the bike on its stand and goes back to close the gate. Across the street, a man in a red shirt is seated, observing the movement. At that moment, another motorcycle comes in the opposite direction, restoring the feeling of normality. But the calm won't last long. The woman returns, adjusts her helmet, and prepares to leave. Suddenly, the red motorcycle reappears, this time at high speed. It jumps onto the sidewalk and stops right next to the victim. The passenger gets off quickly. The action is clear: it's a robbery. The woman immediately steps away from the bike, takes a few steps back, and leans against a post. While the suspects prepare to flee, something unexpected happens. In the top corner of the screen, a man dressed in black appears. He was walking along the main street and noticed the suspicious movement. He is an off-duty police officer. With firm steps, he approaches and confirms the situation. As the suspects try to accelerate and escape, the officer reacts immediately, orders them to stop. The suspects refuse. The silence of the morning is suddenly broken by gunfire. Residents run inside their homes in fear. The victim takes cover behind a parked car. In the chaos, one of the individuals falls to the ground, immobilized. The other manages to run and escape, even while injured. The officer keeps control, reloads his weapon, and quickly reassures the victim, who is still in shock. He then approaches the suspect on the ground, ensuring there is no further risk. Within minutes, patrol cars arrive as backup. The detained individual is taken into custody, while his accomplice remains on the run. Another incident that shows the importance of quick action. The victim is unharmed, and the alert response of an officer prevented the situation from ending in tragedy.
Attention! Another impressive flagrant. Security cameras captured the exact moment when two armed criminals tried to rob a motorcyclist in broad daylight. What they didn't know was that the victim wasn't an ordinary citizen, it was a police officer. And the outcome, my friends, was fatal for the two suspects. It was mid-afternoon, the street seemingly calm. Security cameras installed in front of a business captured the movement. Until that moment, nothing unusual. Suddenly, two motorcycles come into the frame. One of them, a large displacement bike with only one rider. Right behind, another motorcycle, this time with two men. A third bike also appears, but unrelated to what was about to happen. On the bike with two riders were the criminals. They were following the victim, who was riding the larger motorcycle. In just a few seconds, they announced the robbery. The motorcyclist suddenly slows down. The braking is so sharp that the suspects overshoot several meters ahead. The passenger gets off, armed, and moves toward the motorcyclist. The victim, with quick reflexes, abandons the bike and immediately steps back. The driver of the suspect's motorcycle also gets off to assist his partner. It seemed like the moment when the criminals believed they had control of the situation. But the story changes right there. The motorcyclist, who had stepped back to mislead them, reveals who he really is: a police officer. The cameras don't capture the exact instant, but he draws his weapon and opens fire on the suspects. The first one goes down, hit. The second tries to flee with the motorcycle but doesn't get far. The officer fires again, hits the suspect, who loses control, drops the motorcycle, and tries to escape on foot. Cameras from another angle show the scene. Even wounded, the suspect still tries to run, but the officer acts firmly and manages to neutralize him, preventing any reaction. It was the end of the line for the duo. A scene that looks like an action movie, but it's the harsh reality of our country. The officer's courage and intelligence prevented him from becoming just another statistic. He acted with strategy, stepped back to avoid being discovered, reacted at the right time, and managed to take two criminals off the streets. The result? Officer unharmed, two assailants down, and the certainty that that afternoon, the law spoke loud.
Pay close attention. These exclusive images come from a security camera inside a pharmacy. It was already past 9 at night. The workday was almost over after a busy day. On the left corner of the screen, some customers were still chatting calmly with an employee working on the computer. Everything seemed normal, but within seconds, routine turned into chaos. That's when everything changes. Two men rush in, one wearing a black jacket, the other a blue one, both with hoods. But make no mistake, they weren't there to buy medicine. They came to spread fear. Armed, they announced the robbery, pointing a gun at those inside. What they didn't know was that among the people there was an undercover police officer. He had already noticed the suspicious behavior of the two outside, and the moment they walked in, he didn't hesitate to act. The reaction is immediate. The officer draws his weapon and fires. The man in the black jacket is hit and falls. Even injured, he fights back and shoots at the officer, striking his leg. The officer goes down from the impact, knocking over a shelf with him. He tries to get up, but falls again. Still, he keeps his weapon steady and fires multiple times at the armed suspect. 3 shots take the assailant down for good, leaving him screaming in pain. Panic takes over the pharmacy. Despite his injury, the officer manages to remove the criminal's weapon. Meanwhile, the accomplice, in the blue jacket, also shot, remains down at the entrance. The officer carefully points his weapon toward the door to ensure no further threat and takes cover behind the counter. Minutes later, paramedics arrive. The officer is taken to the hospital with a leg wound. The 2 criminals under arrest also receive medical treatment before being sent to jail. Once again, it becomes clear that being a police officer is more than just wearing a uniform. It's about being ready to act 24 hours a day. And in this case, the outcome was clear: 2 fewer criminals on the streets.
Now, an impressive incident caught on the security cameras of a residence. Get ready, because the images are striking and show the action of criminals and the immediate reaction of a corrections officer. See this gray Corolla parked on the street? Inside the car, an entire family. At the wheel, a corrections officer, preparing to get out along with his relatives. Everything seemed like an ordinary late afternoon scene, but within seconds, calm would turn into danger. A white car passes by, and right behind it, a black vehicle. Would they just be local drivers? Negative. The truth becomes clear quickly. Both vehicles stop side by side at the corner. From the white car, two men get out. One of them, wearing a mustard-colored shirt, is armed. His partner, in a red shirt, follows right behind. The intention is clear: robbery. The criminals believed they had found another easy victim, but they were completely mistaken. What they didn't know is that inside the car was an officer watching every move closely. Notice, just seconds before the approach, the passenger door of the Corolla had been opened but quickly shut. The officer had already detected the suspicious movement in the rearview mirror. When the criminals announce the robbery, gun in hand, the officer reacts without hesitation. With extreme speed, he fires at the assailants. The first one, hit, immediately falls to the ground. The second, in desperation, runs toward the black vehicle, manages to get inside, and flees the scene. Right after the action, the corrections officer makes sure his family is safe. Then, he calls for assistance. But when the rescue team arrives, comes the confirmation. The injured assailant did not survive and died right there on the sidewalk. One more criminal who will no longer threaten innocent people. It was the officer's firm reaction and constant vigilance that prevented a tragedy. The family came out unharmed, and the attempted robbery ended with a swift and definitive outcome.